to welcome all of you this morning, Sunday morning, 11 o'clock in winters. After a long day at school, if you're all here before time, shows that you're worried and you're concerned about the upcoming exams, which is actually great news. And we like to congratulate you because, students, if you're already concerned, if you're worried, and if you're here with us, it is a good signal. It is a good sign that you are serious students and you're open to learning. And I'm very, very sure that you're going to do very well. Today we have with us an expert. We welcome you, Suparna Mehrotra, ma'am, all the way from Hyderabad. Ma'am is the principal with the Ganges Valley School, and I'm going to very quickly introduce ma'am to you before we hand it over to her for the session ahead. So students, ma'am has a very rich experience of many, many years, as you can see up on the slide. And ma'am loves working with children. She has been heading the Ganges Valley School at Hyderabad for nearly 9 years, if I'm not wrong, ma'am.
No, Ganges Valley has been 2 years, but I've been a
Yes.
principal for 9 years. Neha.
9 years. All right, great, ma'am. And ma'am is also involved in a lot of designing and developing of curriculums, of calendars at the micro and macro level. Has keen interest in social studies as a subject, and that's why we've requested ma'am to share her insights. Otherwise, ma'am has a background in English. So, ma'am, this is one subject that has been confusing children for a very long time. It is something that can be highly scoring if the children know the right strategies. Rather, a lot of educators also approach us and tell us that we should do more sessions on social studies and the tips and strategies to learn. So with this, I'll quickly hand this over to you, ma'am. With a little request, students, please be very patient throughout the session because I know that you want your questions answered immediately, but we'll not break the speaker's flow. So we'll keep noting down. I will personally keep noting down all your questions, and I promise we will not leave any question unanswered. But you will have to be patient till ma'am finishes so that we can ask your questions. So are we ready, students? Can I have a good thumbs up on the chat box from all of you to motivate us to begin the session? Come on, please use your chat boxes. Thank you so much for the first thumbs up that I see there. And students, also keep noting down your questions. You don't have to wait till the end. I will keep a tab and we'll ask ma'am in the end. Thank you so much, Taru, Shubham, Nikhil, Vrinda, Par. Nikhil, nice to see you again for the next session. So thank you, everyone, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Namaste and a very good morning to everyone present here. And as Neha says, a nice cool winter morning in Hyderabad down south. The mercury's been dipping off late, but I believe up north in Delhi and beyond, it's really been the coldest winter so far. But it's lovely, lovely to have a little chill in the air. And yes, Sunday morning, 11 a.m., students being present over here speaks about a little bit of anxiety, I think. And well, why only students? I think if there are some teachers in the audience as well, and me included, we've had a very uncertain year 2020, and aren't we all looking forward to get done with the last month of December? Normally a year ends and we say, oh God, another year is gone. But I think this year we'll just say, thank heavens 2020 is done with. Looking with a promise to 2021, not only as far as the pandemic is concerned. I think we all gathered here are eagerly waiting that the CBSE makes some of those very crucial announcements with regard to your date sheet. That's been putting all of us, we are sitting with our fingers and toes crossed. But I think sooner or later, that should fall in place and put an end to a great deal of anxiety that, as I said, we all are facing. Yes, social science, a subject, as Neha just put it very, very rightly, to say that people are not very sure, students are not very sure, is it really scoring? Is it the volume of that subject which kind of puts everybody down? 4 books in grade 9 and 10. Is that a cause for concern? But I think my endeavor is that 1 hour down the line, I hope I put most of you at ease to say that there is nothing very difficult to achieve. It is as scoring as any other subject. We've had students in the past all across the country scoring 100% in social science. And that is what I think the aim of this particular session is. However, before I really go on to discussing about strategies and what should have been done till now and what can be done in the coming months, a few months that we may still have in hand, I think it's very important that I bring the subject into perspective. We are talking of the 21st century. We are talking of a century of technology, science, and progress in that field. And I think every student here is tech oriented. You are a generation that's born with this kind of a skill, and it requires very little training to you to get into technology. But yes, as a teacher of history, very specifically, I've been often asked, why are we studying history? I find students easily relate to political science. Yeah, it connects you very well with the political scenario of our country or wherever you may be. And I also find economics is yet another subject taken very willingly by the students, because somewhere you see that you know a lot about the economy of our country, and as I said, maybe that of the world. But history still continues to be a major hassle with students, and I am asked definitely, why are we studying the past? Forget about in 9 and 10, even in other classes. And I have one simple statement to make, that whatever we are today, it's because of our history. And I'm not talking just about a subject as such. Whatever we as a country are politically, socially, economically, it is even scientifically, whatever we are, the science, the progress in that field, it's all because of a historical past. Things have taken a turn like that. They have moved in a process in such a way that today we are what we are because of our past. And believe you me, we have to do exceptionally well to ensure that when people read us, maybe a century from now, I hope we've done some wondrous thing for them to be proud of. Taking, for example, I'll just dwell another minute on that. If you look at COVID, I know the whole world is thinking about it scientifically, but hasn't it kind of prompted so many of us to turn the pages of history and look at the previous pandemics and how they were dealt with? It could have been, the Spanish flu or the cholera and the black fever and so on and so forth. So yes, we turn the pages of history because there are lessons to learn from it. Likewise, the pandemic affecting the economy of the whole world. And each country is dealing with it depending on its political scenario. How it has to be dealt in India, Mr. Modi knows it well. And how is it going to be dealt in the UK and the US and other countries? There is a political leadership which is looking into it. So let's look at every single event which is taking place, every single discovery and invention. And I think it's got a history of its own. So it is a lovely subject. And the way your textbooks of grade 9 and 10 have been written, I think they are exceptional. They are really nice, very interesting. And we will go ahead now. This particular session, as I said, Career Launcher wants to say that it is as scoring as mathematics. It is as scoring as science. So yes, love the subject. That is primarily, something that everyone needs to do when you like a subject and you're really learning it, not basically from an exam point of view, but even otherwise, I think your understanding is far more better. But coming down to brass tacks, yes, we want to crack it. We want to get that 98, 99 and 100% in this, which I think is not very difficult, very possible. The things that I'm going to speak about in the next 50 minutes, a lot of you may be executing it at home. A lot of it, I'm sure your teachers are pushing it on campus or virtually, whatever the mode of study at the moment. But I think at the end of it, if we are doing all this, we are very positive. If even there are a couple of takeaways for you, I think the session would be well worth it. So without any further ado, I have divided my session of the next 50 minutes into 2 bits. I'm talking about what ideally should have happened from June to November. And then we'll say November onwards, the next 2 months, 3 months, or even if your exams do get delayed a little bit more, you get more revision time. What do we do about it? So even this bit that I'm talking about from June to November, I will dwell on it because keeping in mind that the sessions started pretty late in many schools. Maybe this syllabus is not yet over. And if the syllabus is not yet over and you are not in for a pre-board exam as of now, there are certain things that are still very, very applicable. So we look at that, and yes, I like the thing written over there, practice makes a man perfect. So it's not only practice in other subjects, social science definitely needs it far more than the others. Yeah, Ms. Neha, can I have the complete slide? I don't think, yeah, thank you so much. So 5 things that I'm going to stress on, and probably in that order also, in order to make your entire learning process very meaningful, I think you need to keep these 5 things in mind, and that probably will lead you not to panic in the month of November, where we have reached so far. So yes, I will dwell on the importance of map work in a social science exam. I will talk about reading. You know, very often we think reading is a skill left to the language department. But believe me, the kind of importance that I give to it when I am in class and with my students, probably you will realize it. And as I said, many of you may already be doing it. Your teachers are definitely reiterating that. We will talk about what we mean by good writing tasks, your writing skills, and then, of course, studying. That is the major focus for this morning. How are we studying this subject? How are we studying a subject which is so voluminous in nature? Are we doing the right things? Or if you still feel in the month of December, also December, Jan, Feb, a couple of tips can be taken from this session. It will be well worth it. And finally, how do we manage time? Time during the course of our revision, time also on that D-Day when you are taking your social science exam. So that's what I'm going to dwell on, starting very quickly with map. And I really devote a lot of time to map in my classes, and I'm sure your teachers do that for a very simple reason, that this is where you cannot go wrong. You just cannot afford to go wrong. It used to be 6 marks. Now it's 5 marks in the current session. But to get 5 on 5 on this is the objective, is your objective, is your teacher's objective. I am very sure. And if we were to be on campus, believe me, if there are schools and classrooms which have a scene like this, like what we see in this picture, that is perfect. That is ideal. So what tip I would give to some of you even today, that we know, luckily we know what CBSE demands when it comes to those 5 crucial marks in map. So there are these 8 to 10 places in history, and we do have 50 plus places to mark in geography. So right from day 1 onwards, if you have done it well and good, you know, I ask my students to pick up their political maps of India and mark all those and pin it in a classroom so that we can see it the way these children are looking at it day in and day out. But even if we haven't met face to face and physically in schools this year, I hope this has been done back home. If it has not been done, not too late. We still have another 90 days plus. And if you are looking at something for 100 days, I'm sure it just seeps in over there. So it's a very good thing to have all your places marked, the history one separate. And when it comes to geography, just put them separately. One map of minerals, one of agriculture, one with water resources, one with lifelines, and so forth. And just ensure they are there on your table or they are there on the board in your bedroom, because that is what you want to do. You want to look at those places, names written over there, you know which state they are in, and look at it day in and day out. And as I said, you know, it takes 21 days to form a habit. You still have 100 days to go. So you can do wonders over there. And practice marking this for fun. So you do have a bundle of maps lying with you, the blank ones. Whenever you need a break from mathematics, whenever you need a break from sciences or whatever, it just takes 5 minutes, put a map in front, and whatever you want to put it down there, and you don't even have to go to your teacher to correct. It's there, right there for you to edit and correct it yourself. So I consider maps to be absolutely important. This is where each one of you should be looking at 5 on 5. This is your last question in the question paper. And while we are still talking about maps, let me tell you, you get that last question. This year, of course, they're going to put it all together, A, B, C, D, E. Otherwise, history used to be different, geography, a different map. Do not get confused with a third one, which is basically for the visually impaired children. It's written over there very clearly. I'm still making a note of it in this session because I know students have walked out of the examination hall doing a wrong question. So be very clear that you've picked up the correct question, and those initial 15 minutes that you have, that's the time you need to circle and tick mark and say, this is what is meant for me. So please, when you know something and you end up doing a wrong question, that is very tragic. So maths, 5 on 5, next 100 days also, get those maps in places. Just spend another half an hour today to do it and pin it in your bedroom and look at it day in, day out, each map one day. So you should be doing well over there. Okay, can I have the next slide, Neha, please? Next, we are looking at reading. Reading skill, read, and read, because for a subject like this, you don't have to go beyond your NCERT text. You know, I know in other subjects, there are other resources and other material that teachers give you, but the golden mantra, that you will not go beyond these 4 textbooks. It should be more than sufficient even to score that 98, 99, and 100. So it only takes a regular reading habit to develop, at least in the grade 10, when you say, okay, I'm not going to read my storybooks and whatever it is. This is your Gita, this is your Bible, this is your Quran, whatever you may want to do, you will have to read these textbooks. And as I have put it very clearly, that read it twice a year, which should be mandatory. But if you read it the 3rd time, some of you, if you can manage and you have the time to do it, I think that should be fantastic. Because come what may, every single question is going to come from any page, any paragraph, any bit of these 4 books. Nothing beyond it. Yes, they may twist it, turn it, ask you in a different way, but the content is there. The answers are there, very, very much there. So yes, you have to read it. There is no other way. Now, I am also asked, just a minute more, I'm also asked by my students that, ma'am, is it possible that, you know, I just can't do history. I just can't understand it. Can I focus on the other 3? So the answer definitely is a big no, because you can't do that. We all know that the weightage given to the 4 textbooks is equal. It is 20 marks each, maybe a couple of marks here and there this year, but by and large, they all carry equal weightage. So the moment you say history is tough, or you say, I just can't understand political science, you're sure to lose those 20. So please do not get into that. Make an effort. I will also come to my slide to say that even if something's been really tough and hard so far, we still, you know, we're banking on these 100 days now, December, Jan, Feb. That's what we have to use to the best of our ability. So we'll discuss that what can you do in these 100 days so far, even if you feel that there are bits of it that you haven't read. But do not undermine the importance of reading the 4 textbooks. If you haven't done it, start it right now, today, after the session. It will come in handy. Okay, thank you, Neha. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, this is where we spend a little more time than the others. We're talking about study strategies and what is the learning skill. It is, as I said in the beginning, a voluminous subject. You know, from grade 8 to 9, when you come and suddenly there are these 4 textbooks. Yeah, it really is intimidating. And similarly in grade 10, it is comparative. When you see your science book is 1, maths is 1, why does social science have to be 4? And that too with a whole lot of portion. But believe me, the batch over here is extremely lucky. If I was to look for some silver lining in 2020, that would be the reduction of portion. And when I look at the portion that has been reduced in the 4 textbooks, as I said, you are a lucky batch over there. So we have to plan that how do we execute our entire study skill for these 4 textbooks, wherein we still have 2 chapters in history, we have 4 in political science, we have 4 in economics, that makes it 10, and we still have 4 in geography plus 2 for maps. So ideally, we are still looking at 14, 15 chapters. But do you know that, you know, a decade back when this book was released by NCERT, and I was taking this grade 10 class. It came as a shocker to all of us, teachers and students, that do we really have to do every single chapter there? It was only after a couple of years, some portions, became choice lessons and so forth. So it's become easier over a span of a few years. But this year, let's focus. If the portion is reduced, you ought to prepare it even better and see that you attempt your exam well. So organize yourself. You've got 4 subjects. We've already decided that none of them can be left. All are equally important. Now, this is where, if I do have some teachers in the audience, there is something that your teachers could probably help you with. We cannot ignore any subject, but within a subject, within a chapter, let's say nationalism in India, outcomes of democracy, agriculture. If you do find that you are getting confused and there are a lot of conflicting dates and names and they are just not your cup of tea, that is where I would just give a small suggestion to the teachers that you know the dynamics of your class, you understand your children well. If you do feel, please guide some of your children what is more important in that chapter than the other. And how do you do that? You do that only when you have looked at the previous year's board papers, which I think all teachers have done and they kind of share with their students. Many students also do that. So it's quite an effort. I don't deny that. But that effort, I think all social science teachers do take. So a careful and a deliberate study of your board papers of the past 5-7 years will let you in to some of those important topics. So if you feel you're getting confused with the non-cooperation and how different sections of the society reacted to it, your teachers will tell you which one probably is a little more important than the other. Likewise, when you're studying outcomes of democracy, there are those 5 solid answers. So we know the accountability is probably asked more often as compared to the economic growth. So these are some things which very discreetly a teacher could inform a certain set of students for whom the entire syllabus is still very overwhelming. But try and see that you have a gist of that chapter in your mind, because you don't know, you're leaving some bits of it to luck and you don't know what kind of a question will come. So I know many teachers would not like to take the risk, but do help your children, some of them, in this manner if possible. Okay, now when you are studying, and when I say you are learning, in fact, let me use the word learn, not to be confused with rote memorization. There is a very clear-cut difference between what is learning and what is rote memory. Rote memory can be without understanding, no clue what you are trying to recollect and remember, but you are good, your mind works well and you've just memorized by heart. But learning is what we want in this subject. Each teacher has a different learning style. Each student has a different way of learning. And very often, why is it that students are not able to learn all the 4? Why is it that you're able to grasp political science and economics maybe faster and easier from the same teacher, but history takes a little more time? Because each student wants history also to be taught in a different way. So much that teachers bring in a lot of diversity, I'm sure, in their classrooms. There is some bit of learning at this age. You are a 15-year-old, probably you can do that back home also. So let your teacher teach the way you want. And I think if you are able to take in 80% of what your teacher teaches in class, the major battle is won over there. And of course, I'm sure you go back, you ask more questions. But what is it that you can do yourself? So after a teacher teaches, I'm sure you open your textbooks, you read. So I'm going back to my previous skill, which I considered very important, that I hope you are reading. So until and unless you don't come back home to read, there will always be a learning gap. So you have to bridge that, and that is the effort that you have to take. Okay, so we take it that you are reading. By now, it's November and portions are done. You're heading towards your first pre-board. Your book, if I may call it, should be a methodical mess. It is messy, but let it be a methodical mess that you create over there, with every paragraph having important terminologies underlined, dates highlighted, highlighted, names again circled. And along with that, the kind of person I am, I have a lot of sticky notes on that page, and I put all that over there so that the next time around when I come to read it and learn it, I know what is to be only picked up. Because every time I open my book, I cannot be intimidated by so much of content. So I have to bring it down and put it in the form of concept maps, flow charts, anything important, whichever is your way, a timeline over there. And when I say your way, please make every paragraph your own. It is your language over there. I have seen it in school where even something like running notes and concept maps are put on the board and students copy it. No, let's allow the students that much to think on their own, that how would they like to learn and how would they like to remember the content of that page or a particular paragraph. So it's very important in social science that answers are your own. You own them. You have written them. You have read the text. And those highlighted terminologies and dates and names are things that you have to learn, because my concept map will be different from yours. It is going to be like that. Now, after you have done that, you have read the lessons, you are revising now for your pre-board. When you open it, you ask yourself, that's what we say, making sense of the material you have. You have enough content. In fact, I'm sure teachers give you a lot of worksheets and question bank and so forth. But so much of content, again, is it really useful? It can be if you are able to seep in. You should be able to question the what, where, how, when, questions about any particular topic that is written over there, any particular sentence which is written over there. With each paragraph that your teacher deals, I'm sure we sum it up not through one question, but we ask multiple questions over there. A teacher does ask the student that read this and frame a question on your own. So again, my question is different from yours. So it's a good habit to keep writing those questions again over there to say that, okay, the answer is still the same, but it could be asked in this manner. So again, and I'm repeating it time and again that you all may be doing it, but let me just reiterate the whole thing. And then after you have made sense of the entire page, entire topic, entire, that paragraph, that is what is called learning. And believe me, that when you have done it a couple of times, it's a part of you. You may almost question yourself that, have I memorized it by heart? No, you haven't. Because now you have really understood it. And any way the question may be framed, you know exactly what the content and what can be the relevant answer to that. With a minor change in introductions and conclusions, by and large, your 5 pointers or your 4 pointers are still the same. That is what is very essential in social science. That is what is needed in those 4 books. Yes, paragraph by paragraph, page by page, you have understood that and you've made a note of it. Somewhere you feel a timeline helps you. Other places you feel a concept map helps you. Somewhere else you've written an answer. So there can be various ways and you just have to own them, as I said. This year, yes, focus on case studies, which you have in political science, you have in economics, in history, those blue boxes, purple boxes, they are going to be asked. I'm sure some sample papers have been shared by the teachers. So your 4 markers are essentially case studies. And I will not leave the cartoons, caricatures, and any other data-related questions also, which can be your 4 markers. You have this data about UNDP and World Bank. You have another data, let's say outcomes, that how successful have democratic countries been in economic growth, non-democratic, dictatorship. So wherever you have any other relevant information, which I'm sure teachers have gone through the syllabus this time, we are focusing on case studies. We are focusing on cartoons and caricatures, their interpretation, because your 4 markers and 4 such questions are going to be based on that. So I do feel that, once again, if you just run through and skim through this slide step by step, if you have followed this, next 100 days, you still follow them, somewhere you will make sense of the entire information that we have in our 4 textbooks. And leave a certain bit that your teachers are also going to guide you in the same direction. Your pre-board papers are going to be based exactly on some of the sample papers released by CBSE. Okay, Neha, the next one. So we've read, we have learned, and after learning, okay, I've just put one sample of a concept. As I said, concept maps are your own. Very quickly, just a minute, I've just picked up the language policy. When we do federalism in practice, we're talking of 3 aspects: linguistic states, language policy, and the center-state relation. A more popular out of the 3 is definitely the language policy. And if it's a 5 marker, you see I've written 1, 2. On the side, I've written ABC, and then I come back to 3. So I know my 5 points over there, what has to be explained. I tell my students, why have I written A, B, and C? That if for some reason language policy comes as a 3 marker, when it is a 3 marker, expected words are 60. Time also, I will not dwell more than 6 to 7 minutes. But when it is a 5 marker, I know 100 to 120 words plus 10 to 11 minutes. So why should I be wasting time on the D-Day thinking about what is to be written, what is not to be written? So while I am preparing, why I prepare all these concept maps and flowcharts, I'm very clear there itself that if this is a 3 marker, I have to write that ABC. But if it's a 5 marker, yes, the A to Z of it. So, and there also, which are the important points. So I've not written it like an answer here, but that is what is expected, that every concept map gets translated into an answer, which may be a little too late now. That's why I was sharing with Ms. Neha the other day that if in future these sessions are probably held in July, it gives you a lot of more information that how should you proceed all through the year, but never too late for some of the important chapters. If the concept map is there, try writing an answer, because I could use these 5 points, write 120 words, write 150 words. I could even write 60 words. Now that's a skill. That's a skill which comes with practice. So if you have practiced hard, if you have converted your concept maps into answers, you know exactly that is what I have to write. And I know I have my 120 words in place, at least 100 to 120. That's what is wanted, because you must bear in mind a 5 marker, that is what is the expected number of words. If you write lesser than that with all possible 5 points, children, you are surely going to lose somewhere or the other. Because when the board says all 5 mark questions should be answered in 100 to 120 words, they mean that. I have the 5 points, but if I write just like this, whatever is here, I may end up with a decent 2.5. If somebody is really liberal, I may get 3 because my points are there. But I do not get a 5 on 5. Where are my 120 words? So that's an important fact to bear in mind, that examiners are guided by these kind of norms as well. So you can look at the constitution makers, no national language should be there. Hindi became the official language, 40% mother tongue of you. What do we need to do? We need to safeguard other languages. What do we do to safeguard A, B, C? This is what we need to do. And end it with a good conclusion, your 5th point, that even though promotion of Hindi is taking place, we need to be cautious. We need to be very, not hurt the sentiments. So these are terminologies. If you're good at language, it is almost a cakewalk. You see through a lot of your answers because you are good in English or you are good in Hindi, in whichever language you're attempting. But if language is not your forte, no harm. You just have to read the text once or twice. As I said, you actually pick up words from there. And those words are there in your answers. And believe me, the examiners have a key which have those words from the textbook. So you have nothing to lose. Don't get a little bogged down to say, my language is not so good. Am I going to lose? No, provided you have picked up the right content from your textbooks. You are very clear that words like sentiments and flexibility, which are there, which are not my words, I have purposely picked up from the text to show you that you need to write like this. And just compare it with, how our constitution makers were so different from that of Sri Lanka, which ended up in a mess. I just highlighted and put a star over there that we are talking of the NEP. And if I know it's come in the thick of things, as students, you may not have looked at that document, but if a teacher could tell you that NEP is taking the language policy further to say that primary education across the country can be in their mother tongue. So that again is taking my language policy forward in some way or the other. It's a bonus thing. I, as an examiner, if I find something like this, I would be very thrilled. And even if I were to, if you have left out an odd mark on top, I would still give you 5 on 5. It's that kind of a thing. So if you do feel in economics, in political science, even in history, if you can connect with a current event, no harm in just writing that one extra sentence over there. It makes a difference. So concept maps, flow charts, all to be done. Neha, next one, thank you. And as I said, look at your cartoons again and again, and the interpretation is given there. But that day when it comes, you won't have something like this. There will be a question asking you, these ones relate to democracy and coalition government. So are you very clear? Coalition government, pros, cons, what did Vajpayee have to face, what did Mrs. Indira Gandhi have to face, and things like that. So keep yourself abreast, and I'm sure, once again, teachers also know that this year, interpretation of cartoons, caricatures, data, and your case studies are important. So do pay a little attention to these as well. They are easy to score, but dwell on that. Okay, so if we have read, we have learned, it's time to write. And writing for 100 days, not possible. You've got 4 other subjects to study as well. And for, I know the stress levels, how they are increasing, the anxiety is increasing. So I would not say that if you have not done written work so far, jump onto it and write every single day. No, you've got a certain number of hours in a week that you devote to social science. But if you have not been writing your answers, I would say 3 to 4 answers at least twice a week would be ideal even now, and pick up the ones where you feel, that's like your Waterloo and that's like your weakest point. But before that, if you pay attention to the first point, learn and write. You have to learn certain answers and then you're going to write, because we are working on this premise that by XYZ date, when you have your social science exam, you have already learned answers and you are going to write. Yes, there may be a couple of them which you don't know too well. You will think hard at that point in time. But today you have to learn and write, because timing is very, very important. And I do say it's a basic problem that I have faced as a teacher. I face now as a principal also, when a lot of children and parents do come and tell me that, my child is just opening a political science book or a history book and writing from there. His or she is merely copying. And I say that is exactly what is needed in a social science exam. I won't say exactly copying, but if you made sense of what you are copying, then you are writing the best answers at that point in time. And that is exactly what I tell parents and students. You cannot jump into a final exam without having written your answers. Because when you have written your answers, those have been checked by your teachers. They know exactly how you have presented. What is the word limit? Have you used the appropriate vocabulary? The content is fine. The presentation is impressive. Your handwriting is fine. If your handwriting is not good, she'll tell you to leave lines. And there are 100 of other things which come together when you are writing a single answer. And that is what is needed. So I would have said, write at least once a week if you had, kind of started in June, July, but not too late. Post November also start writing. Out of these 100 days, at least 50% days, sit down and write social science. That gives you an edge, surely, because on that particular day, you have already seen how a particular question can be asked in 3-4 different ways. Any way it comes, you already have your answer ready, and you will finish it in the time that you are supposed to. So do not ignore, do not undermine, once again, the importance of writing. So reading, writing, and learning strategy. And yeah, I can show them the next one, Neha. I have just written randomly, I just picked up the first answer in Indian National Congress to say, how did World War I help in the growth of Indian national movement? Now, it's good to put your bullet points in the margin so they are visible. It's a 5 marker. When I look at it, I know the 5 points are there. and underline, highlight the important words. So we know defense expenditure, loan, and then, as a teacher and the examiner, I don't even have to read everything. I know that these are the terms used in your text, and you would have written from there. And it goes in a flow that it is supposed to. So we've discussed defense expenditure, you're putting your income tax for the first time, custom duties, doubling of prices, recruiting farmers as soldiers, and added to it was the famine and the influenza. And then comes Gandhiji. So at the end of it, I have written that this answer is 115 words, and this is what every examiner would be looking forward to. Okay, thank you, Neha. The next one. Okay, so if we have been doing this, I would say managing time is not a challenge. You have devoted enough time to social sciences, the 4 textbooks, which in the month of June really were intimidating, but you have had a perfect method of studying, reading, learning, writing. And at the end of it, I'm sure time is not a major hassle, because when have you done maths and science and languages and other subjects. Your timetable has been ready. But now it's time, it's November. So do we make some changes in these strategies? The next slide tells you that. Yeah. So I say increase the frequency of whatever we have been doing. Focus on chapters and those bits which you feel are difficult to comprehend. That is there. That's very important, because we always put such things in the back burner, and we kind of drag it closer to the examination days, and ultimately we may not even end up learning those. So now is the time. Early December, pick up those, bring them out, thrash it out with your friends, thrash it out with your teacher, see that you have a perfect concept map ready, or write the answer for that. So wherever you have missed out, I'm sure children are learning for pre-boards. So wherever you feel learning for your pre-board, you find those gaps, those have to be plugged as quickly as possible, preferably first 15-20 days of December. Do not push any such thing that you have just not read at all so far to the month of January 2021. Things will start, not that grade 10 is a great pressure situation, but we unknowingly, kind of bring it on our own. So in order to avoid that, look into all these kind of things. Ensure, as I said, your flow charts wherever you need, maps, timelines wherever you need, your colorful sticky notes wherever you need, because every page is your own. That's your textbook, your notebook. The way you feel you have the ideal learning strategy. Do that. And now, as I said, you write a little bit more often, maybe 3 to 4 questions a day. That should help on alternate days. So if twice I feel maybe a little too less, there are 14 chapters after all, thrice a week would be really perfect to write those 3-4 answers. And once again, you are heading for your pre-boards. So whatever the portion is for pre-board 1, apply all these to those chapters now. And I'm sure you have your pre-board 2 in January. So apply all those strategies to those chapters. So I'm sure by January end, you have learned the way you would want to for your board exam. And yes, attempt the previous board papers, I would say 4 to 5 years before. And once again, this is one area where I feel I request all teachers that help the students to put the important questions chapter-wise from these previous year's papers. It's very easy for us to tell कि जाके board का paper देख लो, not realizing that a child has to go through board papers of social science, languages, maths, science. There's too much that we ask them to do. So ideally, as a teacher, I have done it. I can only request the teachers, if they are listening, that help them to do it. If I make important questions of last 5-7 years and hand it over to my child, I'm sure a lot of them will just take those questions and start writing at home and do it like a test. So that should help. If you have the time, you can attempt complete board papers. I've picked up something of, let's say, 2016, 2017, and I'm going to sit for 3 hours and attempt that paper. If that kind of time is available, that's a luxury. I would really congratulate you for that. But if that is not possible, then you have to look at what is your weakness. Are those long answers your weakness, or the shorter ones, or those one markers? So then you put 3 or 4 papers together of that section and start attempting. Nothing without a clock in front. You need to time yourself very ideally to ensure that you don't come out of your examination hall leaving anything that you always knew. So for that, I have the next slide where this is something that my children are always happy to receive, that how much time should be spent in the examination hall for each question. So I'm sure we all know the new pattern that has come in. In fact, last 3-4 months, 2 or 3 patterns have come out, but this is the latest one on the CBSE site. We know 16 one markers. When I say one markers, I'm talking of MCQ or fill in the blank or match the following objective type. Your section B, which are short answer questions, 6 of them for 18 marks, where you are expected to write 50 to 60 words. Section C is something new. We've not had it in social science for quite some time. These are your case studies or a particular paragraph taken, one from each subject, one from history, one from geography, pol science, and economics. And they also have MCQs. Now, the difference between this and a reading comprehension in English would be that in English, you'll find all answers in that paragraph, whereas you may not find that in social science, because they're basically testing your analytical skill, your understanding. So out of the 4 MCQs, maybe 1, you may actually find the answer in that paragraph, but be prepared. Be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. That's how we work. So the other 3 could be very, very analytical in nature. And section D is standard, 5 markers, 5 5s are 25. And last is the map question, 2 for history and 3 for geography. This we know, and I'm sure a lot of teachers have also told you that how do we kind of time to attempt that paper with still 10 minutes there for revision. So focus a great deal on your reading time, 15 very, very valuable minutes given to you at the beginning. I know most examiners will tell you, please do not write anything on the question paper. Request the teacher to say, I'm using a pencil, just to tick mark to say, these are the questions that I know, and circle the ones which you are not very sure of. So at least you've utilized your 15 minutes well. I would also say, if you are a fluent reader and you finish reading your paper in 5-7 minutes, devote that extra time to read your MCQs, first 16, because your target is also to score full marks over there. And go through the paragraphs of section C, because they have been taken from your textbook. And if you've read your book twice or thrice, you will know exactly from where it is. And you'll know all the discussion that has taken place around that topic in your classrooms. You'll have to excuse me. We have elections coming up in Hyderabad, and if Neha, it's sounding very noisy in the background, well, I do have a complete procession which is crossing my house. So do excuse
No
me.
problem, ma'am. There is background now and noise, but we can still hear you.
Okay, then it's fine. Yeah. So 16, those MCQs are again something you have to prepare, reading between the lines. They are the toughest part of your question paper. You may know the answers, you may know those 3 markers, 5 markers, because all said and done, you've heard your teacher revised for so many periodic tests and pre-boards. Yet, if you have not read your books, that is where section A will let you down. So don't let that happen. Read. Take it as, golden mantra from me today. That will solve so many of your issues. So if you are devoting 2 minutes to reading an MCQ, 6 minutes per answer, which is reasonably good. 6 minutes for writing 50, 60 words is enough. I am taking into account that you've learned, and it won't take time to write over them. 7 minutes per source. If you gain time in section A and B, please, kind of shift that time to section C. Next 2 months, when you are practicing, you yourself should be able to analyze which section requires more time on your part. This is a general pattern, but if I am slow at reading, I need section C a little more time. If I'm very fast and fluent in writing, maybe I'll take away a few minutes from section D. So this is what you do. And map, basically locating, and you just have to locate or interpret and recognize that place. I've still given you 2 minutes for those 5, which I know is a little exaggeration there. And if you follow this schedule, you're still left with 10 minutes to revise your paper. So much that it may seem 14 lessons, so much of portion, ultimately it boils down to a very few of those questions and how to attempt it. Okay, we'll quickly move to the next one, which is merely talking about your deletions. I'm sure your teachers and you are very, very well versed with that. After so much of the textbook, as I said, the lucky batch, you are really left with very, very few chapters, primarily only 2 in history, where you're talking of Europe and nationalism in India. When it comes to economics, only consumer awareness has been taken out. Rest, all 4 are there. Yes, in political science, I'm amazed that once again, 4 chapters have been taken away. So it's power sharing, federalism, outcomes. So the simple ones are still there. In fact, the tougher ones have been really, really taken away by the CBSE. And geography, yes, you have your water sources and minerals for map marking, but otherwise your resources, agriculture, industries, and lifelines, which are very much there. So these 2 slides basically show you what is deleted, and you already know what is in place. So we'll not dwell so much on that. We can go ahead, Neha. This one and even the next one is only showing you the deleted portions. Yeah. Yeah, a question that my students ask me, so definitely I put it over here, that why do we really have to do the board papers? Why can't teachers just put it in our periodic tests and pre-boards? We do that. Teachers definitely do that all across the country, that we refer to the previous papers and put important questions so that by and large we know you have attempted it during the course of the year. All the same, next 100 days attempt, as I said, 4 to 5 of them. Now you are basically enhancing your speed and the accuracy of content. Because for accuracy of content, you really don't have to go back to your teacher, because your good answers are already there in your notebook. So just time yourself. As I said, if you are sitting down today to write 3 long answers, 12 minutes each, 36 minutes, set the alarm, switch it off, and see whether you have done those 3. And look into your presentation. If it looks to be decently written, fairly good handwriting, the bullet points marked, underlined, times, the years mentioned, important names mentioned, simultaneously, you don't have to do that in those 10 minutes of revision. It has to become a habit with you. As I write, I already know what is the important thing over here, and I keep underlining that. So speed, accuracy, presentation, children, believe me, very, very important. An examiner gets those bundles to correct, and a beautifully written paper, well-written content is something that those are the students who are getting those 100% marks. So you are one among them. You are. It just requires a little more effort on your part if it is not there already, which I'm sure it is. And yes, practice your map work. Again, you get to know the frequency of which dam is being asked and which airport is being asked and things like that. Agriculture, yes, I think something about soil is there. I'll look at the question a little later. So yes, you need to do all that and practice once again. Now comes the D-Day, the final examination. Walk into that room with a great deal of confidence, and I can vouch that if you have more or less been doing whatever I have mentioned so far, you walk in with that feeling that, yes, I'm going to crack it and do it well. The first point, once again, I leave it to schools and teachers, where I feel that there should be nothing alarming for a student at that point in time when you attempt your paper for the first time. So as students taking the board exam, you are sure to know that your answer script is like a thick notebook. I mean, it's got those 16, 18 pages. It is not vertical, it is horizontal. It's got the first page where your 8 to 10 digit roll number is to be written in words, it's to be written in numbers, and there are a lot of details over there. So more or less, I am aware that schools for a pre-board also do that kind of an exercise with the students, so that on the day when you go to your examination hall, which is more or less in a different school, you do not carry that baggage with you. I'm sorry. Yeah. So you must be familiar with that. Then, as I said, your 15 crucial minutes, very, very important. That's the time you say, I know, I don't know. You reread some of them, whether they are the 4 markers or the MCQ. Some of them, when you tick mark and you say, probably I really didn't understand it so well, I need to read again. Now, this is again my very personal thing, the third bullet point. I have always asked my students to do the 5 markers first, keeping in mind that 5 markers are going to take 1 hour. So please do not panic. Even after 1 hour, if your exam starts at 1 until 2 o'clock, you've done only 5 markers, please do not panic because you have practiced and rehearsed in the same manner. For a very simple reason that if you're running short of time at the end of it, if for some reason you do lose something, let it be that 1 odd 1 marker or 2 1 markers, but not a 5 marker, because more or less the 5 markers are the simple questions which you have read and prepared. 1 marker may still be something that doesn't click your mind at that point. So section, yes, all together, but work backwards, do your 5 markers. From my side, do your 3 markers, and then come on to your 4 and 1s because they are all MCQs. So there's nothing wrong in doing that. Different subjects have different dynamics. Some teachers of English will tell you follow the correct order, but in social science, you can definitely do that. And it helps you to calmly attempt these long answers, which is 25 out of 80. So do them well. The next one, Neha. Yeah, and I'm not going to really repeat. You can read it. We are once again talking about presentation skills. No SMS language. Please don't write B/W for between and NO for number and things like that. Not really the correct and formal way of writing answers. If your handwriting is too big, your letter formation is big, leave lines, but definitely leave lines after every answer. I mean, these are some very, very basic things we tell a 3rd, 4th, 5th grader also, but you can also keep that in mind. Preferably finish an answer on a particular page. If you're left with those 3, 4 lines at the bottom, draw a diagonal line and turn the page and start every new answer on a fresh page. You can do that, but do remember to diagonally cross the pages and the lines that you have not used. Very often, you're flipping a page and by mistake, you flip 2. And later you realize, oh, I have left these 2 pages in between. Never mind. Use a scale and neatly put a diagonal line. Please omit, and that's it. Avoid using whiteners. If you do go wrong somewhere, use your pencil and just put 1 straight line on it. No need to scratch and scribble and, unnecessary write anything over there. Attach your map very, very carefully. Yes, 5 points and 5 marks for those hard-earned this thing. And as I said, tick mark as you keep attempting the questions. Questions in schools are given all in English, but a board paper is English and Hindi. So by mistake also, do not leave out a question. So it's an important habit to just keep ticking and say that in the order that you wanted to do, you have attempted all your questions. Okay. Now, this remains a question mark, as much a question mark to you all as students as to me, because this could vary from the person who's setting a paper to another one. And there is one little thing. Once again, the teachers, please help the children to go through the previous board papers and extract the information from there. Offhand, if I was to just tell you and I look at Indian National Congress, I mean, I know Jallianwala Bagh comes very often. I know that the reaction to non-cooperation, plantation workers comes very often. Alluri Sitaram Raju, the tribal, comes more often than the other 2. But today, in a forum like this, I would not like to me to be quoted because the other 2 are equally important. So it's a question where I said, do not ignore and do not minimize the importance of some questions and the others being more important. Everything is handy. Everything you need to study, and you have had enough time to do that. You still have those magic 100 days still to go. If the exams are not delayed, if they're delayed, you still have a little more time in hand to do the best. And likewise, with its globalization. So we know how our MNCs form. That's a very regular standard 5 marker, which has been asked every second year. Yeah, you talk about outcomes of democracy. So again, their accountability, the political outcome is asked more often than the social and economic one. Power sharing, that's a common one. Federalism, I've told you, language policy comes more often. So it's a question that one has gone through the board papers and shared it with their students. So that's the way it works. So I'll once again request the teachers that this is an effort that they will have to take a little bit and guide your students, because they are doing so many other subjects as well. Yeah. So I think I have timed it, Neha, to exact 12 o'clock. But if you feel your session can go beyond that, and if I could take a few questions, I'm okay with that.
Surely, ma'am, there are not too many, but we have a question here, which is that will the case studies come from the book or outside also?
No, from the book, Sample paper, Neha, is once again, I'm sorry, is the phone bothering you? Should I just
No problem, ma'am. These are the
so sorry about
cons of working from home. No
yes,
problem at all.
Exactly.
All right, students, this is your time to ask your questions. You've been mailing, so if I've missed any question, just repost it once again so we can ask ma'am. You spoke about caricatures, we've covered that. Is there a chance of getting questions from deleted portions in the exam?
No, not at all. If at all it comes, again, a golden rule that if the board, there is some kind of a mistake from their end, the student gets the marks. Very often you do get, it's a normal course also, an odd math sum, not in portion, it's come. So the benefit always goes to the students. So you'll be lucky.
And they also want to know where can they get their sample papers or previous year papers from? Any source that you like to recommend?
It's all it's all on the net. It's on the CBSE site. But I think that's where I mentioned it again and again. I wish the teachers could help them a little bit, because they are looking for all 5 subjects, all board papers. And once again, going through what has come so frequently, that's where a very sincere request to the teachers of social science and other subjects, if we can help them by putting it topic wise also, that effort I think most schools do take, and start giving them those questions in periodic tests and so on and so forth.
Okay, ma'am, Anishka wants to know that should she learn the NCRT questions as well, which I think is going to be important.
Of course. See, that is one way of asking, but I'm sure during the course of your interaction with teachers, the same question has been interpreted differently also. That's one of the major strategies that teachers execute in a class. We study a paragraph and we ask 10 students, think of 10 different questions. And each one has their perspective. So, but they all have the same answer to it.
Right. Ma'am, they also want to know that there's a little trouble with the climatic conditions of crops in from agriculture and geography. Any tips to how they can do that, because they get stuck?
That is one where you have a grid. When it soils, agriculture, minerals, industries. Geography is best learnt with a grid in mind. Your crops are here, your soils are here. Yes, they are overlapping. They are overlapping. And that is where a repetition. So you have written what color, where, why, which states of India, and so on and so forth. So if the grid is ready, those are each aspect of that soil or each aspect of your crop is a 1-pointer over there. So geography, please make your grids. For others, you have a concept map, you have a flow chart, but the chapters which are coming in geography, a grid really works. I wish I had made a grid also and shown over here as a sample, but I'm sure the concerned student would have understood that you need to write the qualities over here and what soil is used for, in which part of a country for growing which crop. So all your chapters, not only soil, you do your crops, you do your industries, you follow that. Minerals, so you have to do water resources. That is where it works the best.
Since we spoke about flowcharts, they want to know that they're going to use flowcharts to learn, but can they also put these flowcharts in their test papers, in the answer sheet?
I did tell you, yeah, you can. I did just tell you that if I put that concept map, I'll get 3 out of 5. Likewise, you put a flow chart, you have your pointers, but why do you think the board is asking you to write an answer for 60 words or write an answer for 120 words? Because they also want to see the extent of your content. Merely saying that 40% of the population spoke Hindi, that's not enough. Then you have to give them example of why Tamil Nadu was against removing English. Have you understood the topic in totality? And that comes, and that's why I said language. If you're good at it, very good. But even then, the language of the textbook, and that's where the emphasis of writing, Neha. I have seen schools after schools that do not emphasize on the fact that answers have to be written. Answers really have to be written.
Ma'am, a repeated question, though we've answered it. Students, you're asking the same question again and again, which refresher to use, what sample paper book. Ma'am has already answered this several times. Please
I
speak
have
to
never asked my students to go beyond, because everything is here. If you have mastered these four, you don't need to go there. You really don't need to go there. So it kind of, in fact, you're making it overwhelming for your own self. You're doing that to actually put that kind of stress on yourself, because if I have an evergreen lying in front of me, or if I have any other textbook lying, a refresher lying in front of me, my parents are bound to tell me, इनको कभी खोल के देखा भी है कि नहीं, you know, कि ये क्यों खरीदा था, that kind of a thing.
Ma'am. So
but
true.
Firstly, where is the time? And secondly, I think that is where, good schools, good teachers, they come together. And that is the effort that teachers take on themselves. That yes, teachers have refreshers. It's there in the library. You refer to them and tell them the variety of questions for that same one paragraph. So whoever is asking child may be a little late even now, but if you think you just want to see the kind of questions you want to, evergreen is definitely one of the good ones. But I generally don't encourage. I mean, personally, it's not been this thing to bring out anything more than these four.
Right. Ma'am, very well answered. Very quickly, students, last three questions I'm taking, ma'am. One, they're asking, will it be a good idea to write the answers in points or paragraphs? And a good usage of different color pencils for marking the maps. Is it a good idea?
Points, 100%. No paragraphs. No paragraphs. It's only when you have differences. Yes, then you make a table and then you put up, your difference between organized and unorganized sector, private and public sector. So you are making that paragraph. Even then you will ensure that you meet the word limit. Again and again, I'm stressing on it, because I know as an examiner, that's one of the major guidelines that you give and you get, that ensure that the word limit is met. So you do put your bullets, as I showed you, in the margin. So it gives you a clear impression, how many points have you marked, and be very sure that you're meeting the word limit. Otherwise, avoid paragraphs, shorter sentences, bullet points, underlined. That's how you should go. And you spoke about color pencil. It won't fetch you more marks, but if you have the time, do it. Otherwise, a pencil is your best friend. Yeah.
Ma'am, since I'm seeing the questions, a lot of them are writing to me privately. I'll seek your permission to answer a couple of them, which are very generic and would cover largely a lot of subjects, not just social sciences. Students, you've been asking questions which are very specific to chapters. How do I cope with this chapter? So this certainly shows that there is a weakness, that there's some kind of trouble that you feel with that chapter. So as ma'am said, there isn't too much time in hand, so you can begin with the ones where you're not very confident and finish them off first. Also, a great idea would always be mind mapping. Okay, like ma'am said, flow charts, that's also a tool of mind mapping. You could use a lot of circles, diagrams, flowers, stars to keep mapping and practicing on, especially on chapters where you feel that there's a handicap. Also, students, the ones who are asking ma'am about how to do history in one shot or what to do with maps, because that was well taken in the beginning. So the good news is that these sessions that we do for you will all be available on our YouTube channels. The YouTube channels are the Career Launcher channels, and also the National Channel for School Education. That's also a Career Launcher channel. I repeat, National Channel for School Education. My colleagues can please post the links of the channel here. So you can go back and refer to these sessions before exams, during your preparation, whenever you want. So don't let this intimidate you that this is over and how are we going to deal without ma'am's help. You're going to have her tell you this time and again every time you click on the YouTube channel. We will also be circulating it largely across the globe for educators, students, and teachers to see. And I'm sure teachers are already helping you, and the educators who will be watching this, I totally agree that if a little help can be provided to the children in terms of sample sample papers and sample questions, it will be a great help. So, ma'am, I think you've done complete justice, and I wish that when we were back in school, we had, these sessions also, along with all the help that was given to us. So,
I must thank you, Neha, and thank you, Career Launches, for giving me this opportunity. Even if there are a couple of takeaways, I think the session, I would say, was well worth it, because, as I said, a lot of you are doing, a lot of children are doing on their own, a lot of teachers are doing good work, and result in social science has always been very, very good. So it's these initial, these months which are a little more taxing, but you'll all do extremely well. All the very best to you. And history in one shot. Only thing is, you've got only 2 chapters to do, nationalism in Europe and in India. I'm sure India, you are very familiar as it is, names and, Gandhiji's movements are clear. So devote a little more time to nationalism in Europe, catch it today and tomorrow, so that you've read and reread. And I'm sure by January, you'll be a little more confident than what you are today.
yes. So, ma'am, I think it's totally a gain for all of us who've been watching this, and there's so much I have learned through this session. So, students, I've put in my email ID there, because after ma'am's session, I can see a series of you telling me, please do it for more subjects. Please come and do it for class 12. Please come and do it for our school. So, please use my email ID to get in touch with me in case you want it to be done for a different subject or a different class or for a different school. So, just write to me. And before I end this, students, there's another such webinar that's going to happen for science now on the 5th of December. So keep an eye for that, and you could please, keep in touch with the same link that you've used for this one will be used for the next session. So join us to understand more on science as well. With this, Suparna ma'am, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I think this has been a very, very meaningful session to each one of us. Thank you for taking out time. And
My
just not
pleasure.
thumbs up and claps would not do. Students, use your chat box quickly to thank ma'am for such a
No,
phenomenal.
no, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you so much, Neha.
That's
Thank
like
you,
it.
Career
Yes.
Launchers, and thank you, children. All the very best. Let's hope exams do start in March, but even if you get a little more window, I'm sure you're going to love it. But sometime in March, April, let's get done with it as well. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And kids, before I sign off, I must compliment each one of you. We started at the number at which we are ending. So, ma'am, it has been a very grasping session. And kids, you've been a great audience, very interactive and very attentive. So, good luck and God bless you. May you really do well in your boards, and maybe keep meeting you for more such valuable sessions. Thank you, Suparna ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste, and take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.